Hello, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidas, Feliz Navidas. I can't remember the rest of the words, but Merry Christmas in Spanish. This is Seddon and Laceys comic book special, Festivus, Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Feliz Navidas, and any other celebration that you hold in December.
Depend,
Expectacularis.
Depending on which day we actually release this, we're full of either Christmas dinner, Boxing Day leftovers, or we're full of something at this point. I'm sure.
Booze.
Yeah, it could be. Well, you say that for you, maybe. I'm still 19 months without an alcoholic beverage, so probably not for me. But who knows? I might find my feet again this Christmas.
There's a litre of Jack Daniels in the cupboard.
Your cupboard's a bit far away from me right now. Although I guess I've got elf powers at the moment, so I could probably some sort of teleportation or something like that to nick your bottle of booze. Although I don't think that's what elves do. Elves are supposed to make stuff and get them to you, aren't they? Rather than steal straight out your cupboards, I think.
Yeah, it's underpants gnomes. Gnomes are the ones that steal shit.
Yeah. So watch. This is a listener warning. Be careful. Gnomes will steal your shit, including your booze. So lock those cupboards, or have your cupboards high, because I imagine they find it tricky with high cupboards.
Exactly. So you would think for a Christmas special we would tackle something pleasant, jolly, even maybe Christmassy.
Yeah, maybe a Christmas special or Christmas edition of something. Or no.
No. What we're doing is arguably, as we all know, my number one. But as Seddon said, it would have been there if he knew that I wasn't going with it.
Yeah.
The classic 1988 or was it 89?
I think so. 88. Well, yeah.
Alan Moore's Killing Joke.
And, something that I think we've mentioned in every episode so far. So it felt fitting that if we were going to do something like a special, then this probably was the one to hit on for that special. And because it does. I think it means a lot to both you and I think many people. And I think that's the truth of why we wanted to get into it. And also, you said it right there. I mean, depending on when you're watching this video, like if it's the year 3000 and you're watching it then, it's even further far. But we're talking like 1988, and this has captured and kept people's imagination all that time, hasn't it? It's not a story that was a flash in the pan, has been forgotten. It's still considered widely one of the best comic book stories of all time, if not the best. And like what a wonderful achievement to do something with iconic characters and 33 years later still considered. And I think we'll touch on this as we go through. Lots of creators who are creating today are creating off the shoulder of this and some other stories at the time, but let's be honest, off the shoulders of this.
Yeah, this is arguably the most important standalone Batman story, in the way that it changed how people perceived the Joker, which then
I think villainy in general. I think I think this really was a touchstone point for American comics as they were, like the mainstream DC and Marvels, to really push forward what you can and then later will do with villains. They weren't so much the villain of the week, or they weren't so much figures of fun, and even like the ones that like were the megalomaniacs. This moved it forward into, I guess, villains being serious, as in the consequences of what they do were dramatic, and I think it ups the stakes obviously for heroes having to face villains in this new kind of I'm going to say uber realistic, but bearing in mind when we talk through the story, like it may seem kind of fanciful, but I think it really was that trip down to villains being really, really evil rather than kind of twirly moustache evil, as maybe historically they were a little bit more.
And also the first one that I can think of that turns the mirror on the reader as well, with something can happen and this is what can come out of that. The whole one bad day.
Yeah.
And, you know, how would you react?
It's quite hard, isn't it? Because I think, I mean, we both would have been a lot younger at the release of this. So, I mean, I come to it later than it actually coming out. And I think if I'd have come to it at the time, I wouldn't have understood it, or I probably wouldn't have got the powerful punch that comes with it. So I think a lot of our reading was in post-Killing Joke time. So we were seeing a lot more of comics being not just a medium to tell a hero story, not just a medium to tell the villain story, not just a medium for comedy, things like that. But this was post this. And again, there was other stuff around this time with Watchmen and Year One and things like that doing Dark Knight do pitch in. But this is that transition point where I think post this, writers started to go, wow, we can really do something with this art form. We can tell really personal stories, as you say in this one, like holding that mirror up to us as the consumers of it, to go, what would you do with this one? If you had one bad day, how would that impact you? And yeah, I mean, it's hard to for me to have experienced that because the age I was, but certainly I feel like I benefited from this existing, because I think I might not have become the comic book fan I am, if this hadn't been written, because I think, you know, the next 30 plus years of publication are totally different because of the existence of this I have to say series. Let's be honest, this special edition, because I mean, ultimately it's not even that long a story, is it? You know, we're not
50
talking
pages.
Yeah, I mean, and getting a little bit carried away already, but bloody hell, what an amazing use of 50 pages. You know, there's not many stories out there, or there's not many, I mean, even in books, films, TV shows, you won't find many things out there that I think packs and the degree of punch that this does for story in such a short period of time.
Yeah. So, obviously, I mentioned how I first found this back on our list's favourite episodes. Obviously, it was a kid in sixth form, had it in the common room. I saw it and went, Batman. Looks a bit different from this cover, and I sort of saw a cover page and went, oh my fuck. Where were you when you first got your little grubby mitts on it?
I reckon I was, I reckon I was probably sort of 16, 17. And I think I had been reading comics for a while at this point, but as I always say on these, I've been nomming down every Marvel monthly that I could get my hands on, and I hadn't really ventured into the world of DC too much. A couple of bits here and there, and I think the only thing I'd got pre this was a bit of Legends of the Dark Knight, because it was a new singular #1. It had a lovely cover, and I think once I started reading that, I went, okay, what else is out there that is Batman? And when I started to look, one of the things that I saw early doors was The Killing Joke, and it's got a very captivating cover, as we've said before. And I think I just saw it and went, yeah, I'm going to get that and have a read. Now, I still come into it cold. You know, I presumed it was a Joker story, and I was, as much as I say this pushed the medium forward, I was still probably very used to more formulaic versions of comic book stories. And I think it was one of those, I kind of opened the first page, didn't stop till the end page, and probably my jaw had hit the floor by the end of it. And I went, wow, you know, I've read, I've experienced something special here. And I guess post that, you then, I mean, for me, I got into trying to recreate that experience. So I think I said about opening my mind, but I still carried on doing the monthly Marvels, but I was much more inclined then to try and track down, you know, things like the top 100 comic book runs of all time, or top 100 stories and stuff. And, you know, if I saw this appearing in the list and there was anything around it, it made me go, right, maybe I'm getting that other stuff and I'm reading that. But yeah, so yeah, I got quite young, but But yeah, it was the cover that got me more than anything else. I hadn't read any Alan Moore. This is the first Alan Moore I read, and what a start to reading Alan Moore. But yeah, there was no prior knowledge to it before I stumbled across it.
So, shall we begin with how the story opens? Is Batman at Arkham Asylum, as we see the Joker playing a version of solitaire.
Yes, I was trying to figure out what that solitaire was, and I meant to get that research before the show, and but yeah, I love a bit of solitaire, but I wasn't sure which version of it it was he was playing.
And Batman basically comes out and says, we need to have a heart-to-heart. One of us is either going to kill each other or we're both going to die.
Yeah.
We need to end this.
It was I mean, like we've talked about this series, as I say, it's probably been mentioned on most episodes, and we talked about how much we liked it, but I think this is the first time we are talking directly to each other about this, and one of the things that again makes this so smart and compelling for me is that it has a ton of depth and a ton of layers. But when I say a ton of depth and a ton of layers, I think it has a ton of depth and a ton of layers to each individual reader. And I think some of these scenes, we will all get a slightly different impression or resonate with us in a slightly different way. I like the way you said heart to heart, though, because for me, this feels like two people in a really bad relationship. And when I say a relationship, I mean like a lover's relationship. Like the way that Batman enters this conversation and the way he talks about it. I mean, it almost, that's a hard thing to say, but it almost feels like a couple in a mutually abusive relationship. And he has had this realization that as much as they're probably destined to be together forever, they can't stay together, because if they do, as you say, one or both of them are going to die. And I mean, what again, context wise, in '88, what a leap forward for this as a medium. Like previous to that, it would be, you're the bad guy, I'm the good guy, biff bash bosh, and just amazing to take it to that depth. But yeah, this what an opening gambit to a story. If you're not hooked by the end of the first 2 pages, shit, like you probably should never read a comic book again, as far as I'm concerned, because this is just amazing stuff straight out.
So, is part of that, obviously Batman is opening his heart on the whole sort of, we need to talk, we need to know what's going, we need to deal with this. Joker is silent, so he grabs his hand and realizes that his white paint on his hand has come off. So he grabs the Joker, who then says, I know my rights, you can't do this, and realizes that it's a guy just made up like the Joker. The Commissioner Gordon comes in and says, you can't do this, and Batman has an amazing moment of, where is he?
History is littered with appalling security at Arkham. But fuck me, Arkham's got appalling security, hasn't it? Like they should not exist. Arkham should not be allowed to hold people like this, because my God, like you let Joker be swapped out. This is ridiculous. This is a new foul level of shitness in their security procedures.
So we find out where the Joker is, at an old, dilapidated, broken down carnival.
This part here where we see the Joker in this story for the first time, and bearing in mind we've seen the front cover, so and we've seen like faux Joker and Batman, but I mean, I when I was reading it through again the last couple of nights, I just made some quick notes, just because sometimes you go, I don't want to forget that.
Yeah.
The art in this is amazing, and we will pick up again, but this part where you see the Joker, like again, I talk about something knocking your socks off. I think the dialogue in those opening scenes will knock your socks off. I think you turn that page and you see Joker, and oh my god, it's got the wow factor, hasn't it? I mean,
Beautiful side profile Joker.
Yeah, it is. And again, you know, we've said on other shows that when I see Joker, I see this Joker, and these are why, because it's such an amazing art job. I think it does bear mentioning though that we both read the recolored one, didn't we?
Yes.
We both read the deluxe one. So, but I can't, and I think originally I didn't read the deluxe one, but I don't remember that kind of being noticeably problematic at all. But I imagine it might not have been quite so clean as we saw it on the deluxe edition. But yeah, like early doors jumping in on how brilliant the art is, and this was a key moment for me.
Yeah. And we get a wonderful monologue from Joker saying about how awful this place is. It's going to maim and murder kids. It'll never do anything. And then the salesman goon goes, "Oh, what do you mean you don't like it?" And Joker, in a wonderful quim, goes, "I love it.
Yeah.
It's perfect."
It feels, and again, I'm trying to put my mind in like that era, and it feels quite jokery even for that era, but with, as I say, the art style being a bit darker and there being a slightly darker tone to it. But yeah, you could easily be forgiven of going, well, this is a Joker caper, isn't it? You know, he likes to kind of make his fun houses and mad houses and things like that. But you see in the background with like just the way that it's set out, it just feels that darker, grittier, grimier version of it.
Yeah. We then get the salesman sort of saying about he's not being put off by the price, and we find out that the Joker's already paid for it and shakes hands with a poisoned hand dart, which basically turns him into a smiling corpse.
Ooh.
On a rocking horse.
A nice nod again, isn't it, to that kind of more, like hand buzzer sort of thing. But again, with that much more sinister turn to it.
So yeah, it's a great little introduction to the real Joker, not the phony card playing Joker.
Yeah, I imagine if you were reading the Batman monthlies at that time for the year preceding this, I think again that would have been even more. Oh, bloody hell. He's gone a bit dark quick, isn't he?
It's one of those that turned quickly.
Yeah.
Just grabbing the book quickly because I can't remember if it. Oh yes, it does. Then go into we then go into the first of the flashbacks.
Yes.
Where we see the unnamed comedian.
The young Joker, young Mr. Grace from Are You Being Served? No, I thought this bit was, like really nicely done, really interesting, and it is very much him coming home after let's say like a failure at being a comedian. He messed up a punchline, didn't he? And and we've all failed at our jobs before. Some of us more than others, and I think it gets across. I mean, he's got a young wife, hasn't he? He's pregnant, and that his key goal is to basically get them out of the building that they're in. He wants to live in a nicer part of town, and I think these are all goals that most human beings can get behind. And I think this does kind of lay the framework of why he is trying to do. I mean, if anything, in theory, it sets the framework for poor guy. This guy is just trying. However, poor guy, this guy is just trying. There is a moment, isn't there, where he mentioned about
the rent lady.
It's the punchline bit where he says, "I messed up my punchline," and his wife goes, "Oh,
yeah,"
and he turns very quickly, doesn't he?
Yes.
Even then, there's very much a like, well, what are you saying old for? Like, you calling me a failure? And hindsight's a beautiful thing, but I think for me, like that really was almost a tip to the hat of going, yeah, like he's got similar goals to you, but he's got a side to him.
Yeah,
this guy isn't all sweetness and light here, and yeah, again, very clever, very multi-dimensional. Because I think in a cheaper writer's hands, he would just be like, "Oh, jolly comedian. Oh, sorry, I didn't get the job." Da 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 da. And I think at this point, you'd be portraying him as almost the ultimate baby face, the ultimate good guy. But I'm really impressed, like that they, as I say, they gave him this darkness even at that point.
Yeah, the "Oh, you think I'm a failure?
Yeah.
Oh, you think I did it deliberately?"
Yeah.
And it also mentions about the fact that the money that he needs, if girls on the street can knock that
Yeah.
out in a weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, and goes back to sort of saying, and like, you know, I have to struggle to be a comedian, as if like, and no offense to any comedians that watch him, but almost equating it to like my life is much harder because I have to do this amazingly important, difficult thing, and they can just kind of open their legs and earn money. And one of the things I kind of noted here is we talk about the influence of this book, and I think it's undoubtable how influential it is in the world of comic books. But for anyone who hasn't read this and is looking for the nuggets of maybe some of the Batman and Joker stuff you've experienced, the Joker movie. I don't think there's a Joker movie doing what the Joker movie does, if not for this scene in this comic book. And I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but of course, you know, you have that struggling comedian element. And I didn't realize this at the time because Joaquin Phoenix's performance of it didn't exist when I read this the first time, but he read this and that's what he was channeling for me when he was kind of expanding and creating his version of the Joker. And you know, like, again, it's that DNA thing. I mean, I love that movie, but I say that movie doesn't exist, I don't think, without this scene in this comic book.
No, and something that we'll go over later, but there's other nods to other earlier Batman films that would not have existed if it wasn't for this.
Yeah.
We then go back to the Batcave where we see Batman looking at a screen full of Joker images.
I love that.
And just saying that he doesn't. How can he hate someone that he doesn't know and be so attached to someone that he doesn't even really know?
Again, it's so relationshipy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so I don't know, like they're a couple, and again, they're not being hammering you over the head with this either. It's just done so well. It's kind of it's just there, and you go, yes, bloody hell, this is brilliant. But yeah, loved it. Loved the. I mean, God, wouldn't want to be in a relationship like theirs, but yeah, loved that they're layering this in as we go through the story. And loved the multiple pictures of a Joker. Made me want to change the background on my computer, but I haven't got around to it yet.
So we then go to Commissioner Gordon's house, where he is making his little scrapbook.
Yeah.
Barbara gets all mumsy and says, "You're going to spill some paint or glue on your trousers." And we get a knock at the door.
It's an interesting look, isn't it? Because I mean, we do see Commissioner Gordon earlier, don't we? He's at the prison, as you said, with Batman. But yeah, like I guess for someone who hasn't read the comic books with Commissioner Gordon and Barbara, like, this is your first introduction to him, and I think they do it quite well, didn't they? You know, you very clearly established that here is the parent of this person, and they have a good relationship. And I think at this stage, that's all you need to know about that, really, isn't it? Like,
So we then get a knock at the door.
Isn't it supposed to be for a yoga class? Now, if there's ever an advert for what comes next, if there's an advert for exercise being bad for you, it's what comes next.
And the door opens and you see a barrel of a gun, a shot, Joker in a Hawaiian shirt, camera around his neck, wonderful hat on, as Barbara falls back for a coffee table. Some of the greatest bits of Jokerisms, where he goes, she thinks she's a coffee book edition or coffee table edition.
Because she's and just for context for anyone who's read it, because like in the story she is a librarian, so like you know, he goes to sort of straight into to his coffee table gag.
And she's a cheap edition because there's a hole in the cover. The spine's a bit soft, and it's just great. And again, Joker puns.
It's that layering and that darkness, though, isn't it? Because Joker puns before would have been more to do with kind of the bank robbery he just did, but he has just shot someone point blank through the gut and out the back, and you know his first reaction is to tell a joke about it, and you know, albeit quite a clever joke, but a viciously nasty joke, bearing in mind what he's just done. The opening the door, the shot, and Barbara falling is all one page again, isn't it? And I wanted to back up on the art again and go, you know, in probably maybe one of the reasons why I think it comes in at the 50 pages is I think in a weaker writer's hands and possibly a weaker artist's hand, there would be a huge temptation for every single part of this, or certainly big parts of this, to be almost singular pages of their own and drag it out. But I think it's weirdly more impactful seeing it on the one page. You just kind of go, what fucking hell? Because again, you know, like this is Barbara Gordon is a big character. If you're coming to this cold, you wouldn't know that necessarily, but I think you pick up later. But she's a big character in the Bat universe at this time, and maybe again the shame of it is that these days characters die 3-4 times a year just to get resurrected. But you didn't get main characters in comic books, certainly not good guys, getting shot. This was a monumental thing for them to do, and in that stream of panels, I think is my bearing in mind how much I wax lyrical about that Joker. I think it's my favourite panel of the comic book, and you mention it with so he's there with his Hawaiian shirt and his camera around his neck, and his I think it's a fedora. I'm not great with hats, but I'm going to go with a fedora.
It's more a Panama than a fedora.
Thank you. I was hoping
double did it.
I was hoping you would know hats because I have no hat knowledge, but underneath there's a strip of black light because of the hat, and all you see is 2 white pinpricks and the rest of Joker's face. And I mean, I wrote down there, I go, genius, because at this point he is the ultimate predator. He is a shark, and he looks like he has shark eyes. And again, it's just great art design for me. It's the difference between a story being average and a story being great. It's that there's no wasted parts of those panels. They've thought through everything that's going into that, and I just thought marvelous, you know, because we've seen Joker before, we've seen him standing in doorways, but this is again a different Joker, and the thing that he's about to do is different. But you already see in that panel beforehand, oh shit, something really bad is going to happen here, but because of the way they frame that, knocked my socks off.
And interestingly enough, for such an iconic look, you never see him in a Hawaiian shirt again. And it's a very, very brave choice for something as impactful as this moment to put Joker in something so outside of what Joker is usually wearing. Because you always think of Joker in a suit.
Yep. Yeah, and you know, I said, like we said, I think in a lesser writer, in a lesser artist's hands, you'd have just done that, wouldn't they? They'd have just gone, well, that's what Joker looks like. That's his iconic look. Boom, do it. But no, I mean, you know, he thought it through, and do you know what you say? You don't see him in one of them again. But even if it's in a 10 years time, if you open a comic book and you see him in a Hawaiian shirt, you're going to think, shit's going to go bad now, isn't it? Yeah, and you know, I think, amazing storytelling.
We in this bit we also see that Gordon tries to attack the Joker, but he gets his comeuppance by Joker's goons. They lead out Gordon and tell him not to hurt him because he is the star of the show.
Your heart's bleeding for him already, isn't it? Yeah. Like, I mean, I don't have kids, but the idea of this heinously evil psychopath coming into your house and shooting one of your loved ones, then getting these guys to give you a kicking, then dragging you off. It's just, I found it quite hard to read that bit again, because I'm just like, again, putting yourself into the shoes of the characters, and you just go, I don't know what I do. I just know that would destroy me. And you know, fantastic. But again, only impactful, I think, because of your setup. You know, your setup of it being such a out of the blue event. You know, if you did that every week, if Joker had been shooting people in people's families every week, it doesn't have that impact. But yeah, oh God, my heart was bleeding for Gordon already at this point.
And then Joker takes a turn even fucking darker as he gets his camera and starts to undress the paralyzed, bleeding out Barbara.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote down for that. I went like, as much as they've been layering on, this is a darker Joker, right the way up to him shooting someone in that way. I wrote down this is where it takes its major turn, doesn't it? Like, this is where you go. Even if you think there's a way back and the next issue, if there was a follow up, the Joker could be Arthur again. This for me was the point where you go, no, you have fundamentally changed that character now. You have sent him to an ultimate dark place, and it was, as you say, the undressing to take photographs of her prone shot body.
Yeah. We then get our second flashback where we see the comedian in a restaurant / bar. I'm not quite sure.
I was thinking like a bar or something like that. It felt like to me, but yeah, probably a bar with food.
With a couple of
goons,
good old-fashioned mobster goons, that are basically telling him that they will give him lots of money if he does one score with them.
Yeah.
Because they need to go into the chemical factory that he used to work in to get to the playing card factory. But he'll be wearing the Red Hood.
How did you feel? I like to kind of tap into that. How you felt about people at certain points. How were you feeling about? I think going back to young Joker, origin Joker at this point. Like, were you sympathising with him in this, or like were you going kind of okay? Yeah, they set up his peril earlier, and he just wants to. He's maybe taking a shortcut, but he's doing this for his wife and his unborn child, and the idea might be bad, but the intention is good. Like, were you on his side at this point?
At this point, yeah, because it's that whole sort of doing something desperate, to get somewhere. Obviously,
and also, I thought
his work isn't working for him. And
I thought they portrayed him naive enough here as well.
Yeah.
To almost kind of, because like you can almost see it in those mobsters' eyes of like, we need you. You ain't getting any money. Yeah. You're going to be the fool guy. You're going to be the patsy. Like, that's already kind of being laid in there, but he doesn't get it, does he? So no. I think they did a good job of potentially keeping the sympathy with him, of going, he just doesn't understand, and he's in way over his head here.
It is very much that he doesn't know or doesn't have the street smarts about him to know what is going to happen and what's going to go on.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh yeah, no, it's fine. Oh yeah, I'll do it. I'll get paid. I can change my life.
Well, I mean, he's even saying to him, isn't he? I mean, he's been open and honest. He sort of said to him, I only want to do this once because, doing this for me wife and me kid, want to buy a nice house and all that sort of thing. And it just comes across so naive.
We then get Batman in the hospital, Barbara.
Oh, sorry, before we move on, I wanted to say it as well, like, and again, I know this is a recolored one, but a lot of what we've seen so far is blacks, whites, dark blues, isn't it? Obviously the Joker with green, outside of the Joker's white, but a lot of this has been quite dark. And I thought, again, it was really smart to introduce the Red Hood part of it, because and even the mobsters, they're wearing black or brown and things like that. But I think to interject bits of colour every now and again, and colour on things that ultimately play a reasonable degree of importance to the story, really smart again for me.
And with that bit, those flashback bits as well, they're a very sort of like a brownish sort of tinge.
Yeah, they've got kind of almost old paper kind of feel to them, haven't they? Like muddy and musty, I guess.
Yeah. So as I was saying, we get Batman visiting Barbara in the hospital. Barbara is no longer in the coma that she seems to be at first.
She perks right up quick, didn't she, when Bats turns up?
He obviously gets told about the fact that she was naked and there was a camera lens, and we put two and two together from what we got in the last bit before the flashback of what Joker had actually done. And then we go to the fairgrounds.
Yes.
Where we see Gordon stripped naked, getting poked and prodded by electrical shocks by some really fucking weird looking midgets.
That they really lean heavily into the old school circus freak type, don't they? You know,
Yeah,
like it really is leaning into that, and you know, like a totally dehumanized version of all of those archetypes, isn't it? Like they, yeah, it's almost out of the dark imagination of someone like the Joker, isn't it?
Yeah, and obviously they push him along, and you then see.
Oh, I was going to say as well. I already said like how bad I felt for Gordon, but as you say, you know, you get to this point and you go, so you know, brutally shot their daughter, beating the shit out of him. Then they kind of strip him naked, put him in what I can only think of as kind of like almost bondage gear to kind of lead him around in, isn't it? And you just go, oh fuck! Like give this guy a break. You've already done so much, but obviously not enough.
No, and then you see Joker sat in, would say it's half of a waltzer on top of this pile of dolls and baby heads with stairs leading up to this giant throne.
It's the clown prince finally taking his throne, isn't he? You know, like again, so smart. It's this is the ascendancy of Joker. This is Alan Moore and Bolan taking Joker from what he's been up until this point and making him into the ultimate Joker. What Joker's ultimate endpoint is, just again,
And
absolutely perfect.
And at this point is where Joker goes on another one of his great monologues that he does a lot in this.
Yeah.
About how the world is awful, and he's going, and Gordon going like everyone, he's going mad. They're losing the plot.
They're right. They do give Joker gets more lines than anyone in this, doesn't he? And I think to a degree, you know, it is a mixture of bad things, you know, like go back to the joke about the coffee table, you know, like that. What a horrible thing to do when you just shot someone. But you know, I think we talked about it on the villains one. The is Magneto right? Is Thanos right? And I think they give enough in some of Joker's monologues to it being a reflection of the real world, and enough for you to almost at certain points go, it's got a point here. And I think we said it on the villains episode. That's what makes a great villain for us, of going, they've got something now. I think what you do with the Joker is you do the story and you frame that even when he's got a point, he does it in such a heinous, horrible, evil way that you couldn't jump on board with it. But yeah, I like the fact that there are parts where you go, yes, you know, what is it? It says mad, random, and pointless. That's what he calls the human existence. And there was a large part of me that went, yeah, do you know what? Like, yeah, if you break it down, it is all those three things for a lot of us. But yeah, great stuff again.
We then get another flashback where we find out that the comedian's wife has died.
Yeah.
In a freak baby bottle heating accident.
I didn't even know there were such things until I read this. And another reason why I never had kids, I read this and went, no, I now understand what can happen.
So obviously he's broken down, and the police are there and they tell him, yeah, maybe you should have another drink before you go and visit.
They're not the most sensitive police officers ever, are they? And again, it's sign of the times thing. And of course, not only was this a sign of the times, but obviously his origin goes years back. But this, and of course, like Gotham's always been that allegory of New York, but they feel like probably your stereotypical 1970s New York cops from a movie, where they're just a bit like, well, yeah, your wife's dead, bit of a shame, have a drink, you'll get over it, mate. And And you know, like there's even kind of nice subtlety in this, isn't there? Of going, what if that copper had been slightly more sympathetic? What if it had gone, oh, you know, come with us, you know, like we'll go away and, you know, we'll find you some help. You know, would that story have gone very differently? Tiptoeing and tweaking into the one bad day stuff. But yeah, I like that. You know, I like the fact that they're just twats. And of course, he then goes back into the bar to tell the mobster boys that the tragic news that he's had, and they're just like, well,
sorry for your loss, but we're still on for tonight.
Yeah, and if you don't, there's no, you know, that's harsh, but you know that doesn't matter to us, and unless you want very much the same yourself, you're still doing this job tonight. So yeah, like kind of the people that are there at his most tragic point, not very helpful, are they?
No, didn't give two fucks.
Yeah.
We go back to the present where we see Gordon on the ghost train. And by ghost train, another Joker monologue telling Gordon of why he's going mad, how the world is out for him.
Yeah.
And ending in Gordon seeing very much like the Willy Wonka boat ride, visuals of the photos that Joker has taken of a naked, broken Barbara.
Yeah.
And
you know, I said earlier, like how, you know, you're putting yourself in the shoes of, and I think that's who you are predominantly supposed to kind of put your self in the shoes of is Gordon. But you almost go, how could I put myself in the shoes of him when Joker does that? I couldn't tell you how I'd react if someone did that to me, because I think it's almost incomprehensible. It is so heinous and horrible. And funny you should say about the Willy Wonka ride. Whenever I think of this scene, I think this is what I think Tim Burton wanted his Willy Wonka to be. Unfortunately, he failed at doing this or doing a good Willy Wonka. But you know, like I think this is kind of inspirationally like where his mind went to on stuff like this. But yeah, it's a horror ride and a half, isn't it?
Yeah. We then see an array of small panels with no dialogue of Batman searching to try and find the Joker. You see him in a bar, you see him with Penguin, you see him with some hookers, and then you see the Batlight going up, and he is handed a Joker card and an admission ticket to the fun fair. We then go back to the flashbacks where we see the comedian as the Red Hood bumble his way through.
Bumble is the perfect word.
Through the job. Obviously, as you would imagine, it all goes wrong.
It's your use of words is often, I feel, so much better than mine, because you use bumble, which I've just described as the perfect word. I wrote down, he's a bit shit as a robber, isn't he?
You know, he goes in, he's told them that there wouldn't be security, turns out there is. Both of the goons get shot because they radio in about the fact that the Red Hood gang is here to rob the factory.
Even then, though, they can't stop being shits, though, can they? No. Like Goon 2, let's call him, kind of goes, you don't want me, Governor, you want him. He's the Red Hood. He's the mastermind behind this. What a prick. What an absolute prick.
And then gets shot.
Yeah.
So he gets his comeuppance. We then see a early version of Batman, or the Bat Person, as the guards name him.
And weirdly enough, fast forward 30 to 40 years, like probably will end up being called the Bat Person again at some point, wouldn't they? Like foreshadowing.
So he sort of chases the comedian, who falls over a railing. Batman tries to stop him, grab him, and hold him up, But in that usual way that always happens to villains, they slip and fall into the water supply coming out of the chemical plant, and you see him go in pain and it burns, and he removes the red hood and sees himself in a puddle, and he has become the Joker, and we get the iconic moment of him just starting to laugh, giggle,
I was going to say
and then
the same.
the hand on the head, the image that I have seen countless tattoos of.
I've got a T-shirt of it. I probably should have worn it tonight, but it's Christmas, isn't it? So yeah.
So yeah, one of probably the most iconic images of
and even
Joker.
in one issue, like this issue is full of iconic ones, and what we are probably page count wise probably close to maybe around the sort of 60% or 3/4 mark, and they bang out the most iconic one ever after already doing some absolute bangers beforehand. Amazing. Yeah. But yeah, it is, and like you get it's kind of got the bloodshot eyes and all this sort of thing, and it's the as we say, first time of it, but it's the absolute manic best image, I think, of the Joker. Him at his kind of absolute rawest, I think.
Yeah. So we go back to the present, where Joker is talking to the freaks in the carnival and telling them how funny it is that the commissioner is broken, and laughing at the commissioner as he sits in a cell broken. The Batmobile races in.
I have a question. I need to take a momentary pause at this point.
Yes.
Not to spoil too much going forward, but I think probably what's coming across already, and with stuff we've done before, how much I love this, how brilliant this is. And I would say this is faultless, except for I really don't like the way they draw the Batmobile in this. I really don't. And I know it's kind of Batmobile-esque of a certain time, but I don't know what it is. But that panel, because you see it kind of parked up there, and I don't know, just out of every other thing on this, I loved. But yeah, I just don't like the Batmobile. It really throws me off.
The thing is, it's one of those. If a year later this would have come out, they could have gone off Burton's iconically wonderful Batmobile.
It's something about that front bit, like, and again, it was how they were drawing it at the time. But yeah, I don't know. I just I thought, while we're waxing lyrical, I do. But as I say, if my biggest complaint about this is didn't like the picture of one car and one panel, pretty fucking good, isn't it? Like,
yeah. Though as I said, I will concur. It's not the prettiest of Batmobiles.
No.
But soon enough, we see it for all of 2 panels.
Yep.
I'll forgive it.
Yeah, minor complaint. Yeah, minor complaint.
So, Batman turns up, and his first words to the real Joker is, "Hello, I've come to talk." Setting the tone for everything.
Yeah.
And then we get our first fight.
Yeah.
Joker and Batman get into it.
Yeah, other than like that early bit of grabbing like fake Joker and sort of scuffly kerfuffles of not much. Yeah, you're right. Like this is our first actual kind of fight scene, isn't it? Action scene, I guess, arguably.
Which isn't very long. Ends with Joker using a poison acid hand sprayer onto Batman's arm and running off. And then we get, I think, one of the more pivotal moments of the whole story, and shows a key part of the difference between the 3 main characters in this.
Yeah.
Is Gordon, even having his one bad day, wants Batman to bring Joker in by the book.
Yeah, the right way. Oh, what a fucking hero. What a hero at this point.
It has to be by the book.
Well, and even more so. I mean, I don't know whether you felt this, but I think it was trying to get across to me that there was nothing a Joker could do that could push him to change his moral compass.
Yeah.
But actually, in effect, the more Joker pushed him, the more he would stick at his moral. Yeah, the more stubborn he get about it. Because as far as and again, I think we'll cover this later because we're going to get to bits obviously with Batman and Joker having a talk. But as far as Gordon is concerned, and this he might be right, he might be wrong. This is the only way to deal with or to try and to address or if we go that far to try and help someone like the Joker. You know, like he's saying, you've just given me my one bad day and it didn't break me, but not even in a fuck you, it didn't break me way. It was almost like, I can be an example for you. I can show you that actually with one bad day, I still want to do things right. As I say, like what a heroic outcome to such a horrific series of events for him, and it felt real and convincing. It didn't feel like oh god, I'm going to rail on Superman for a second, like I like to do, but this didn't feel like, oh, good old Superman, you know, will never do wrong, he's the golden boy and this sort of thing. This felt like a real human being being put through this grueling stuff, but actually come into the I don't want to be a different person at the end of this. I want to do things the right way. Fantastic. Absolutely. I talked about jaw dropping after I'd read it. This is one of those jaw dropping moments for me. I just thought it was so a cheaper writer, a worse writer. It would be so easy for them to turn him into the vengeful Gordon who kind of does things a different way. But the story doesn't work without this, I don't think.
And then we see Batman going into the House of Mirrors, where Joker gives us his greatest monologue.
Yeah.
The one bad day monologue, which I'm going to get you to just play the audio of the Mark Hamill.
Oh, yeah. I hadn't thought of that.
Because I can't do it.
Stretching my editing skills, you bastard. I'll figure it out.
Memory's so treacherous. One moment you're lost in a carnival of delights, with the poignant childhood aromas, the flashing neon of puberty, all that sentimental candy floss. The next, it leads you somewhere you don't want to go, somewhere dark and cold and filled with the damp, ambiguous shapes of things you'd hope were forgotten. Memories can be vile, repulsive little brutes. Like children, I suppose.
I can't do it justice. It's the only person that can read this and do it justice is Mark Hamill, which we will go into later on why.
Yeah. But you say about the classic monologue bit, and God, you know, it's a love fest, isn't it? We keep piling on the iconic visual, classic line, things like that. But this is, and still, we've only got 50 pages of this. But yes, this is amazingly written, and it's amazingly written as a monologue. But it works, and it is amazing as a monologue, because of how they told the story to get us to this point. So when you read him talking about the one bad day, you've had all that put in front of you with those extra shades of grey. You know, they didn't just go, oh, here is the ultimate good guy. A bad thing happened. He turned bad. You see in some of those scenes, he's not spotless. He does have faults. He has a temper. He's a bit naive, arguably a bit stupid, arguably prone to doing bad things because that was the only thing he could think of other than being a comedian or a lab technician as he'd been before.
He was desperate.
Yeah, and just layers upon layers upon layers within such a short story.
And also mentioning the fact of Bruce's one bad day.
Yeah.
And going, what was it? That you lost a brother or
a
friend or a pet?
Yeah.
What was it that was your bad day? Because obviously, other people have made the connection and done it that way for other tellings of the Joker, that the Joker was the hood that shot Martha and Thomas.
Yeah.
But this Joker isn't that.
No. And rightfully not, because I don't think it's, everything doesn't need to be connected in that. I think the thing that makes the connection between them great is what you just described there. Joker had his bad day and he went this way, and he can recognize in Batman that Batman had a bad day, and that's what got him to dress up as a bat and want to intimidate people, in the same way as Batman had a bad day and become Batman, but he can, Batman said earlier, he doesn't know the Joker. And I think at this point, this is where he starts to get to know the Joker, isn't it? Because I think he goes, oh, yeah, actually, like, fuck, I don't really know why you went necessarily like this, but I know you had that one bad day. I know you've experienced a tragedy that got you to where you are now.
Then we get them having another scrap.
Before you go on, like, we talk about classic lines. It's in and around this bit where, and I think it's beautiful for this story, but beautiful for every writer who got to play with these characters later. And it's the line, if I'm going to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice.
Yes.
So as much as we've seen the Joker's origin, he lays out right here of going, I don't really like to think about the past. The past happened and it shaped me, but I don't want to dwell on it. And if I am going to dwell on it, it might change every time I remember it. And it gives every writer to come the ability to not discount this, but add in another wrinkle, change it, because now Joker, every time he's having a conversation with Batman, he could pull on a heartstring, or he could tug on something else and go, oh, this happened to me and stuff like that. I really stood out for me in this part.
So they have a fight. Joker goes to shoot Batman, only to find out that it's a flag gun, and comes out saying click, click, click.
Yeah. And then again, a nod. What a nod to
classic.
Classic. School. But with that new tinge to it. Really enjoyed that. And this, they've had their fight, but again, they're limited in space. But I think we've often found this, haven't we? We've talked about this with Batman and Joker stuff, where Batman's going to kick the shit out of Joker pretty quickly, isn't he? Generally, he's got the skill set. And where Joker, I guess, has a degree of advantage is his willingness to do anything and his randomness. But you do expect in a fight Batman to come out, certainly a one-on-one, Batman to come out on top. So I'm glad that they didn't dwell on it too long. But you do have that moment in that scene, don't you, where Joker's got the drop on him, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Joker has the gun, and Joker has the gun on Batman. And okay, we've seen Batman in many movies, TVs, comic books escape, but I really felt that was supposed to be, he's got him banged to rights right in front of him, enough distance that when he pulls that trigger, he's shooting Batman, and he's not necessarily going to kill him, but he's going to hurt him badly. And then you get the click, 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 and it's just brilliant, isn't it? It's absolutely brilliant.
And then we have a callback from the very beginning where Batman actually gets to say it's the real Joker and not some fake imitation Joker.
Very quickly, before we go on to that, there's one bit that we've skipped out, which is in this scene, which is Batman gets to tell the Joker he didn't break Gordon. And I think that's such an immense moment for this story, because that was Joker's plan, wasn't it? And it's right, and it's just before they do that gun bit that he says, you didn't break him. He sent me to get you in the right way. And I think that's ultimately what beats Joker in that fight. As much as we say Batman would have beaten him, I think it's the precursor to what you're about to get onto this conversation. So I think you've got a defeated Joker at this point, because his grand plan, nodding back to the days where they'd set the death traps, but this time it really was something horrific. His grand plan has failed, and if anything, Gordon has proved that the Joker is wrong, and it doesn't just take one bad day for everyone. But again, a key moment for the story, and of course leads into the bit that you're about to talk about, where they have their little lovers chat now.
Yeah. So Batman goes back to what he said earlier on, that he's going to either kill Joker, Joker's going to kill him. They can't go on forever.
Yeah.
They're going to, they're going to be the death of each other.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
then-
he even to a degree, I think, in this is as much as that's on his mind and that's part of his point. I do feel like that as he's kind of leading into this, he's almost going, "This is our last chance. This is our last chance." Yeah, again, I'll go back to the toxic relationship theory. This is our last chance. If we don't resolve this and move forward with it now, yes, we are going to be the death of each other. And so even at this stage, I think Bats is still going, I love you, but this won't work unless we, and yeah, like amazing.
And we finish with another little quip from the Joker, where he tells us a joke about two lunatics in an asylum
Yeah,
who are escaping the asylum and escaping over the roof. One of them says, but he can't make it. So he says, the other one that can get over says, well, I've got a flashlight. I'll light the way so you can walk across. The other one turns to him and goes, what do you think I am, crazy? You'll turn the light out on me halfway. And then Joker starts to lose his shit to his own joke.
Yep.
Batman starts with that sort of slight smirk.
Yes, yeah.
A little bit of a giggle. Then they both break down in fits of laughter with each other. The end.
Well, and during this part, we're seeing this on one page again, aren't we? Such powerful storytelling on that, and as you say, you see like Joker laugh, then you see the kind of almost the bats getting the shakes, like I'm trying to hold it in, but I'm going to laugh, and then they kind of, as the panels go on, the camera, if we thought of it as a camera, is panning down as the panels go, isn't it? And
the last three images are just a puddle.
Well, the thing is, you see kind of Bats lean in as he's laughing and kind of put his hands on Joker's shoulders. And yeah, as you say, like the panels come down and I don't know, do we want to kind of wrap our thoughts on this as a piece, or do we want to talk about that ending first? Which way around do you want to do it?
We will do the ending first and then do it as a whole. So this is one of those endings to something that everyone will have their interpretation.
I think you and me are going to have the same, I do.
Of what happens here and what happens. So, Sed, how do you see it?
Batman kills him. Right there. Batman kills the Joker. That's how I see it. Like, as that panel's going down and he's put his hands on his shoulders, I see it as he puts his hands around the Joker's neck and he strangles the Joker. And that's why you start to only see the Batman's laughter, because that is the killing joke and that is the punchline. They are the two lunatics. And the Joker's just said to him, we cannot coexist. There is no fixing this relationship, and we are going to kill each other, or I am going to kill you, or you're going to kill me, because even when you offer me that branch, I won't take it because you'll switch the flashlight off, the gag. And I think at that point for me, that is where, and I will sort of tiptoe into this of going, I think it's this way because this, I believe but in Moore's mind, let's say I'm in Moore's mind, this is a Joker story that's a singular story and a final story, let's say. Like if this had been in a Batman monthly, I'd have said no, but I think this is the final story where Gordon was strong and didn't get broken. Batman, Joker finally broke him, and the only way he could see to end this and to end suffering for everyone around is he had to take the Joker out. And that's why I think you cut down to puddles. One, because it allows us as the audience to answer that question ourselves. But also, I don't think you'd ever want to show Batman killing Joker. How about yourself?
See, I do go with it's Batman kills him.
Yeah, I thought we might. I thought we might be on the same page.
Batman knows that even if he does it by the book and takes him back, it's only going to happen again and again.
And as I say, that at the end he says that to him. That's that joke. That is the punchline. Is he says, "I can see what you're trying to do, but there's no way around this. Like, we are going to do this forever, and until we kill each other." But the wider realization with Batman of going, it doesn't even matter whether he kills me. He's escalated. He's shot someone. He's mentally tortured the commissioner of the police. This has gone too far at this point.
Yeah. And as I was saying earlier, a recall to another film, this is that Heath Ledger hanging upside down Christian Bale Batman moment in the film world.
Yeah.
Is that realization of both of them cannot coexist in the same world.
Yeah.
And
It's not to harp on about it, but the One Bad Day made Batman, albeit a dark and mentally affected, but a force of attempting to put order into the world, where Joker's One Bad Day made him chaos, and order and chaos cannot coexist. What I love about it, though, as I said, and I think this is in storytelling, in books, in comic books, in movies. It's one of the things that I think I really resonate with and go towards is writers who write a story that has an ending for each individual. Now, when I say an ending for each individual, as you say, we both went down the same line here. But if someone turned around to me and said, "No way does Batman kill him. Batman doesn't kill. And actually, Joker tells that joke, but Batman goes the Gordon route and takes him back to Arkham," I go, cool. If that works for you, brilliant. Like, it's not, no, you've got that wrong. Because I think it's got enough in there that you as the audience member can, how the story impacted you to get there probably impacts what you think happens at the end. And just really clever stuff.
Just as easily, Joker could have got that knife out and just stabbed him.
Yeah.
As he's on his shoulder.
Yeah.
It is one of those of, we will never know what the end should have been, because Alan Moore has come out and disowned this as a piece of work, but that's Alan Moore being Alan Moore.
And he's had a lot of problems with the company, hasn't he? Like, that stems from so much else that's kind of happened around it, which is a shame. Would you want to know the answer?
No. That's what I love about this is...
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of quite a modern thing, isn't it? That quest for spoilers before stuff comes out, and that quest for having to definitively know the answer. And I don't know, I'm not saying I don't have some curiosity sometimes, but it's better for me not knowing the answer. Because do you know what? If Alan Moore said it is supposed to be this and it's exactly what I thought, I know that that's going to negatively impact the experience for those people who thought otherwise. And I don't want that. Let us write our own ending. But when I say let us write our own ending, I don't mean just kind of fade to black 5 pages beforehand, where you've got no kind of even attempt at resolution, but give us the story beats that allows us to end it the way that we think it would have ended.
Yeah, and it's the thing, it is a perfect end to a story, because like with Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, it ends in that sort of moment of, well, what's going to happen? And it leaves that in you that you're gonna read it again, because the second time you read it, your head might go, see something slightly different and go a different way with it. Whereas if you have a definitive, and then Gordon shoots Joker in the face.
Yeah. Well, and because it's a singular story, it's not a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, I say I mean, certainly probably even back then, but post years have taught us that Alan Moore wrote his story and he moved on. He didn't go, if I leave this ending like this, I'll make gangbusters when I do Killing Joke 2, Electric Boogaloo. Like he told his story and he is done. But it still has a kind of cliffhanger element to it, doesn't it? So it still has those comic book tropes. Quite often you would, in a more monthly serial, go, oh, well, what happens next? Come back next month. So he's even got like the love letter stuff to the comic book medium. What an ending! What a fantastic ending to a fantastic story. I run out of superlatives, and I do this. And one of the reasons why I really wanted to do it again is it'd been a little while since I read it, and the idea of reading it again and having a purpose. Well, bloody hell, sign me up.
Yeah. Well, it's like with this, I will normally read this 2, maybe 3 times every year, because the thing is, with it being as short as it is, you can bash it out in half an hour.
Yeah. But get such an amazing amount of content out of it, and as you say, like bash it out. I mean, some of these panels are. I said about the art earlier. The art is beautiful. It's an artist at the top of his game, working collaboratively with a writer at the top of their game. But some of the panels don't have a lot going on in them. But others have tons, don't they? Like we said about iconic scenes, but you do get a lot of panels per page a lot, don't you? We said about one of the reasons this comes in at 50 pages is it doesn't mind telling you what I guess in a movie would be 5 minutes worth of story in one page, because it will go to like, let's say 12 panels.
The searching bit where Batman's searching for information on Joker. There's 9. I think it's 12 images on that one page, which you don't need them more expanded than that. You know what he's doing.
For arseholes like me who could easily sit there at home and go, well, how do you know where he was? It covers that bit without having to spend 5 issues covering it, doesn't it? It goes, you fucking search for him, get over it, dickhead. Just great pacing, great. I mean, obviously we've got, and we'll probably get to it at some point, but we've got things like Watchmen that we'll cover and stuff like that. And I think, you talk when we get into the art of that, like the use of panels and the use of that as a storytelling technique beyond the traditional, you had this many panels on the page and you fucking filled them, mate. This is again where that craft starts to get smart, and they are as a team working on it and going, this is the page of story that we want to tell in words. How do we make the art get those words across in a commensurate page? Genius.
So as we all know, this is my favorite fucking story of all time, and we know that you have so much love for it. Obviously we didn't mention it in our Where to Start with Batman for a reason. We were doing a full-blown deep on it, but I don't think it's a place to start. If you've never read any other Batmans before, I wouldn't start with this, because it is perfection, and everything after that is not going to live up to the speed of the story, the art of the story, and the story beats of itself. I don't think I would go to say Will and go, right, there's your first Batman, read Killing Joke.
Crack on. and then jump back to like Batman 372 and see how you found that. Strange enough, like outside of the is it a good starting point for Batman? One of the things that popped through my head when I was thinking about this earlier is, and there's an argument for a couple of other series or issues, but I would say if you are only ever going to read one comic book in your lifetime, read
See, now
this
that's
one.
a different argument.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. You know, like I wouldn't say if you want to become Batman fan, do this, but yeah, I would recommend this as if you're not a comic book fan and you think you probably won't ever become one, but you fancy reading one, go with this,
Then,
man,
yeah.
because it's brilliant. Like it is. I think it will. I think it will open your eyes to what the medium can do in the same way as it probably opened people's eyes in '88 to what the medium can do. Um, and I can't think of much better examples to show it as a comic book medium, but partially that's because of the familiarity of the characters. Watchmen, it doesn't. No, people don't. I know there's been a movie now, but generally people don't know who the Watchmen characters are unless they've watched the movie. Whereas most people know who Batman is, most people know who Joker is, and I think this is one of those stories where you could, as I say, open people's eyes to what greatness there is in the craft. Fantastic. But yeah, I'm with you. I wouldn't go start with this because I would argue that Batman Year One and The Dark Knight isn't much of a step down from this. Things like Snyder's Batman, we're going down some layers.
Yeah.
But like there's good stuff. But you are right. This everything would feel a little bit of a letdown post this, I think, because I mean that's where I pretty much started with Batman was this, and I didn't really get into the monthly series much after this. I dipped in and out every now and again for big stories, but I kind of twigged very early on that this was something a little bit different, a little bit special, and this I wasn't going to get this every month. But as we said earlier, you can see the DNA of this start to get into how many comic books were written after this, and by in a lot of cases lesser writers, but they probably became better writers because this would have opened their eyes to what you can do in a comic book, the sort of stories you can tell.
Yeah, for a non-reader, then yeah, you're right. As I'm comics, what Backstreet Kids, things like that,
yeah.
Then go, no, read this.
Yeah.
This will show you what the medium is. But yeah, perfection. So,
do you know what? I'm willing to, and I think it's really hard, isn't it, to say things like that because it's almost that like when do you give 10 out of 10 for something? Because once you give 10 out of 10, and something better comes out, where do you go with it from there? The Dave Meltzer 5-star, 6-star, 7-star out of 5 match, but. And I would lean into that because, as I say, the one fault I can find with it is I don't like one bloody drawing of one bloody car in it. And it's not only I like everything else, I love everything else about this. Even the things I don't like. When you say love, we talked about this when we did the villainy one of going, do I like the idea of Joker shooting someone, stripping them naked and taking photos? Well, no, it's not what I do as a hobby, but I love it in the context of the story because the story has to go there, or the story doesn't work or isn't as effective if it doesn't go there. So yeah, I think perfection is right. I do. I can't fault it. I can't find. And you know what? I keep coming back to it. I think one of the most breathtaking things about this is the length of it.
yeah.
To do so much in such a small amount of pages is phenomenal. Bearing in mind a lot of the things that I think are often elevated and put up there with it have done it over 6 issues, 12 issues, things like that. So they've had a much more expansive run up to get their story points across or to really layer those in. So succinct, so perfect.
So, 3 years ago, I had my little heart fluttering away when I first read they're doing an animated version of The Killing Joke. It then made it better when I saw that Kevin Conroy was reprising Batman.
Yeah.
And Mark Hamill was coming back as the Joker. And at this point, Mark Hamill had literally said this was the only story that he would go back to be the Joker to do.
I don't know chronology wise, or sorry, release date wise, rather than chronology. But for those that don't know, I mean, DC have released a lot of animated movies, haven't they? Generally touching on stories from the comic books. Somewhat still in the animated universe, but it leans a lot heavier into some of the iconic stories, don't it? And not just Batman. You know, there's Superman ones, isn't there? There's Justice League ones and things like that. So yeah, you know, they do have quite a pantheon of animated movies out there.
Whereas like pretty much all of the Batman ones that we mentioned last week in the thingy, where to start. Long Halloween's been made into one.
Yeah.
Dark Knight Returns is made into one. Hush has been made into one. So a lot they are taking the iconic stories and making them animated.
The best of the best, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, and you know, like if you're gonna release 20 animated movies over 20 years, it makes sense to pick the 20 best stories or something like that, doesn't it?
So obviously anyone that has played the Arkham Asylum games, Kevin Conroy did Batman in those, and obviously Mark Hamill was Joker in those as well. And at the point when Arkham Knight came out, that was when Mark Hamill said, "I'm never doing the Joker again, unless they make Killing Joke." So we got the Killing Joke animated. I sent you over a copy so you could watch it.
Yeah, and I will say before we go into what we thought of it, bearing in mind what we've just said about the story and the kind of beats it touches on, what a brave story to turn into an animated movie. And I know, like, when we say animated, obviously in animation, much like we say about comic books, animation is so much more than a lot of people think of when they hear the term animation. You know, they go, what, like fucking cartoons, Thundercats, He-Man, or whatever their idea is. But animation is kind of, you know, it's just a medium to tell a story. But I still think what a bold story to try and turn into something that would traditionally be thought of as you know, cartoons for kids. So like, hats off to him for almost having, and also very brave in touching a story that we've just described as perfection and trying to turn that into a different medium. Hats off to them for their bravery.
So when I saw this was getting, when they were just about to release, they said it got the R rating, which is basically the American version of an 18. And I was like, I'm in, because they're not going to fuck it up now. They're going in with the correct level of gore and nastiness, and they're not sugarcoating it.
Yeah.
And then when we watched it, we got the prologue.
The prologue, yeah.
So the prologue of the film is we see Batgirl, Barbara, basically stopping a heist with Batman.
Doing Batgirl things.
Batgirl doing Batgirl things. Sees this mob boss basically, you know, blow her a kiss and says he's going to take over the mob because he's infatuated with her. What we then get is Batman fucking her, Batgirl.
There's a weird kind of, I say a weird, there's a scene, isn't there, where she's kind of back at her day job, being Barbara, non-Batgirl, doing a thing, and some guy, which I thought, and maybe I'm just misinterpreting it, was clearly trying to hit on her. And she was talking about, oh no, you know, like, I've still got my eyes for the yoga instructor, I believe, to call back to yoga again. But almost kind of going like, oh, you know, but probably nothing will happen. And then, as you say, like post a successful end, like solving of a crime or beating up of a bad guys, they do. They bang, don't they?
And then following that, we get the awkward Barbara basically trying to go, "It's only sex!" And then stopping being Batgirl because clearly
she
made things awkward.
she has a even further conversation with that same person who went, "Ah, we kind of done it now, hey," and then they have like again they fight the hoodlums, don't they? And they've kind of had that awkward conversation where like Batman's a bit like, "Whoa." You know, like we shouldn't have done this, and she's kind of trying to, as you say, well, not make light of it, but almost go, look, it doesn't have to be a thing and stuff like that. But during the fight, she loses her temper, doesn't she? And she really starts to beat the living shit out of the mob boss guy. And then kind of Batman looks at her all disapprovingly, and then, as you say, yeah, she kind of goes, "Oh, but I won't be Batgirl anymore." And that kind of gets us into where the Killing Joke goes. I take it from your tone, you were as unenamored by this addition to the story as I was.
It's what I get that they needed to have over an hour running time, you know, to be a feature length.
Yeah.
Do we really need Batman and Batgirl hooking up?
No,
there was no need for it. It never happens in any other medium that I've seen of them being.
She's always felt like a kind of a niece or baby sister to him, hasn't it? And yeah, it was really off-putting. It was like, oh no, Batman's just banged his sister, and even more so, he's been a dick about it afterwards, and now his sister can't be Batgirl anymore because she feels bad because they did this, and almost kind of like that, like guilt being thrown on her. And I just thought it painted like one, I think it painted Batman in a really bad light. Now, for context, Batman, you know, he gets his fair share in the comic books, doesn't he? You know, like he does. Yeah. He's a bit of a rogue when it comes to the women sometimes. But yeah, I think it paints him in a really bad light. I think it lessens the relationship between the two. And if anything, I think it cheapens Batgirl's role as Batgirl. Yeah. Like, I almost go like, if that happened, as it did, I'd almost want Batgirl to have a bit of a fuck you to you and go, no, I'm going to carry on fighting crime. Like, I shouldn't feel weird about this. This is something we did as grown-ups. And yeah, I'm going to go, and you ain't going to make me feel awkward enough to quit my job. It almost felt like sexual harassment in the workplace a little bit to me. And it's not the look I wanted for Batman, if I'm honest.
No, it's the thing, it's like, there's always been the sexual chemistry between Batman and Catwoman.
Yeah.
Which has always gone back from ages, because obviously, even when they're Bruce and Selina and they don't realise that they're Batman and Catwoman, there was always that sort of sex edge sort of
and for me, like comic book wise, you know, you kind of read them. I guess it's put in there for a reason, but it was Dick Grayson and Barbara, you know, like, and not the sexual tension necessarily got with Catwoman. That felt a little bit more like and you know, God, I'm worried about how I'm going to the family, but as much as she felt like Bruce's little sister, he, like, Dick was kind of like, as I say, Bruce's ward, and it felt like there was a bit of a, can we? Because I'm kind of like his little sister, and you're kind of like his son, like, but yeah, that seemed to be like the thing that always held them back, of just a bit of a, this could be a bit awkward, but that felt like the love story for Barbara for me.
Yeah,
Barbara. I keep wanting to say Barbara.
The other thing that I will say they do with the prologue is they modernise it. So you've obviously, because this was being in the 80s that it was originally done. Paris is there on a laptop and a video screen and sending video messages and stuff like that. So bringing it into modern tech.
Yeah.
Which obviously, the thing with the Killing Joke is there's no real tech in there other than you see the back computer. So it doesn't age it. Whereas at the same point, having this sort of thrown into it just sort of makes you look at the original source. Well, that wouldn't be there.
Do you reckon it's a bit of a like, and again, to be critical of modern audiences are going, if you did it like it was in the comic book, because I think they have like a cordless telephone in the comic book. That's the only other thing that strikes out to me and stuff like that. And I guess if you had a cordless telephone now, do many houses? I don't actually know the answer to this because I don't have a home phone anymore. I rely on my mobile. But would that make like a youth audience right now go, oh God, like this is so old. Look, they're using cordless telephones. I don't know, but yeah, there does seem to be a desire to almost, and it happens in comics a lot, to almost pull everything into close to the time period that their youngest part of the audience would be in at the time. But yeah, not necessary for me. They don't need to do that. But yeah, they obviously felt the need to.
So that's the first 20 minutes of it.
Yeah, and that does tack in at about sort of 20, 25 minutes, isn't it? Somewhere around that, isn't it?
Then we see Batman rolling up to Arkham, and we get the true start of the Killing Joke. The one thing I will say with this animation, it was hard for them to obviously do it as perfect as the still image is in the book.
Yeah.
But fuck me, they do a good job.
They really try, don't they? That comes across. They're really trying to make it look like the source material, and I don't even necessarily mean parrot fashioning Balan's art style. I think just in the way the story is laid out, they try to be, I think, very faithful, and that come across to me.
Yeah. Mark Hamill delivering those lines, to me, I'm a fanboy of Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill, him and Caesar are my early Jokers, because Batman 66 and Batman the Animated Series, they are the voices of Joker for me growing up. Obviously, I had Nicholson, but predominantly, the wider exposure was to those two, and him just do the monologues just so perfect.
It is very faithful, isn't it? I was trying to think, and I probably should have written this down because my memory is dog-turd, as we all know on this show. Where does it deviate? Because there are some deviation points. And when I say deviate, I don't mean like, and all of a sudden the aliens come down. There are slight variations, though, aren't there? There are additional bits lugged into this.
Pre-Gordon going through the tunnel, we get the Joker song.
Yes, yeah.
Where they chuck the judge's wig on Gordon and tell him to throw the book at the real bad guy.
Yeah,
throws the book, pop up of Batman.
Yeah, and it's kind of an extra layer of the fucking with Gordon part of the story, isn't it? Like they kind of dress him up as a judge and say, "Well, you think you think you are the law, you think you're the bee's knees, you're the judge, jury, the executioner. Well, throw the book at me." And then, of course, as you say, a pop up of Batman comes and it hits Batman, and he goes, "Well, there's your problem. Like you're kind of not the judge, the jury, and the executioner because you use this guy to sort of facilitate it, and you shouldn't be using this guy."
And where's his justice?
You
let him get away with everything.
Yeah. Why is he allowed to not have to follow the rules that you so covet yourself?
Yeah. Obviously, we get the song. Was the song needed?
For me, no. But did it make it like worse? No. Like I think it's something you can whack in a trailer for it, isn't it? I think for people who don't know the story and are not coming for the Killing Joke, I think it's a scene that you could use to sell the movie.
Yeah, and it's sinister enough that it doesn't feel out of place.
Yeah. It doesn't come across kind of like, oh, wacky comedy's been thrown into the middle of this. It's not you're watching, I don't know why I'm going to go with this because it bears no relation, but it's not like you're watching Predator, then all of a sudden in the middle of it, Arnie starts banging out a song because, it does fit in keeping with the way the story has been told and things that you've seen the Joker do.
Yeah. The other bit, there's a bit of an additional is there's a few extra lines in the One Bad Day monologue, and they change the fight to be initially in the upside down house.
Yes, yeah.
But that's it. That's the only real additions that they put into it. What were your thoughts on the Killing Joke from where the Killing Joke should start? Not.
I was going to say, yeah. I think we've done the prologue to death here. I mean, one of the things I was going to pick up again, I know I said about in the comic book, but again, smart where they're trying to pay homage to it is, again, like when you get the Barbara Gordon scene, he is still dressed in that with the hat. But even things like that could have been missed is they do the black stripe across the eyes, the white pinpricks for the eyes and things like that. So I think, again, it speaks to the people who made it, having a love for it and wanting to tell it well. What do I think of it? I don't like it, is what I think of it. I don't like it. But what a bloody good effort. And I know that's a kind of weird balance, but as I say, they try to tell it so faithfully. And I think they do the best job they can do to do that. I didn't like it as an animated product. I don't know why. It lost something for me. There's something about, I think, the comic book medium that allowed that story to be great. And I think when I saw it in animated format, it lost a lot of its impact to me. And it actually started to make me think, like, is it just, going back to something we said earlier, is it so perfect in its original form it should be left alone? And actually, if you try to do it in any other form, do you either tarnish the original, or is it just impossible to recreate it? And then because I like the original form so much, it's hard for anything that comes post that not to feel like a lesser version of it. And once my brain starts clicking into a lesser version of it, no matter how good an attempt I think they did, it's a lesser version. And I would, how I said, if you're only going to read one comic book in your life, read this.
Yeah.
If you haven't read this, don't watch the animated movie. Because I think the animated movie, because they tried to be so faithful, would somewhat spoil the story of the comic book.
Yeah.
But I would say, even if you have read it, I would recommend people don't watch it. And it's not because it's bad. I just don't. I think it's a less effective version. And I think, like, as much as they try to stay so true to those scenes, actually, here we go. Because all I want is a suit made of gold and everything perfect, because you know how I like things. But I think I'd have preferred them to tell that story, but do it differently in the animated. I don't mean change the story, but actually not go beat for beat with the comic, but use that animation medium to do something really interestingly visual with it. Whereas I felt like I got an attempt at a carbon copy. But one last thing I'll say, and I promise I will let you talk about it, but if someone had changed it and done something else with it, do you know what? I probably would have said, no, I don't like it. And I think what I ultimately fell down on here of going, I don't think there's anything they could have done to make me like it. I feel like they, I said earlier, what a brave idea to do it. I want to add into there, brave but possibly stupid, because some things should be left alone. And I think this should have been left alone in the comic book format.
Yeah, so me, this is twofold. I love having Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill being those voices.
Yeah.
And the fact of how those lines are read is exactly how I read them. Even watching them do it, they're the voices that are saying those lines.
Maybe that was part of it for me, Chris, because when I read it, I wasn't hearing Hamill. But don't forget, I read it before I'd heard Hamill.
Yeah.
So, like, the first... And I don't think it has ever been Hamill for me. And even after hearing Hamill. I do think he's a good Joker, but Hamill for me is a cartoon Joker. He isn't this Joker. So yeah, maybe maybe that's why it doesn't connect quite so well with me, because of when I read it, and I didn't have that voice. I had a different voice in mind for him.
Yeah, but yeah, it's that thing of like, as I said, Hamill and Caesar are the voices for me with Joker. Obviously, anything Golden Age, it's always Caesar's voice that I hear saying those lines. 80s onwards is Hamill, because he could do the sinister and the crazy as well. So hearing those read by my Joker,
Yeah,
I fucking love it.
and I can see why you would. I think there's so much credence to that as a concept. Yeah,
but you're right. It is already perfection.
Yeah,
Where it seemed a little bit try hard to try and be exact with the artwork.
Somewhere where it goes from being a love letter to the original to being a bit of a stalker's version of a love letter to an original. Like, please love me back, please. One of the things that we've talked about this, I think, on the Renaissance Men podcast. I think it was there we talked about it, but we talked about the idea of a remake or a reboot or something akin to that. And there are some things that I think it's really hard to get a modern audience to sign up for. And I remember saying, like, if a film is of a certain age or older, I think the effects are too much of a barrier to get people in. So I don't mind the idea of a remake or a reboot, because I hope that people then watch and I fingers crossed they're good, but I hope that gets them to then go and visit the original and actually realise why the original was so good. I'm slightly different on this. I didn't feel at the end of this that if you watch this as the cartoon or the animated, sorry, sort of say the cartoon, you're going to go and seek out the comic book. And I actually, because I think, like, we know that the visual medium of animated movies, whatever, we know it finds a bigger audience than the comic books. But I actually think that this would potentially go to our Friday night show with Stu and Jimmy, let's say. I could easily see us saying to him, here is Batman the Killing Joke, the animated movie, and I could see us getting them to watch it because it's an hour. And even if we said, you can read the comic book in half an hour, I think they're already less inclined to read the comic book. And I think they'd be really uninclined, not because the story's bad or anything, but I think they'd be really uninclined to read the comic book after experiencing it as a cartoon, because I think they would feel like they got the story already. And I think the comic book tells it so much more impactful. So I guess part of my fear of this having an animated version is that will be the only version that a lot of people will experience. And unfortunately, they'll get the shit prologue that goes with it. So...
Which was not needed and hasn't.
Yeah. I mean, when I say like I don't like it, that is like ignoring the prologue as well, because I almost think that was really poorly thought out. And I think if I was recommending anyone to watch this, I would say skip to minute 23. Don't bother with the first 23 minutes because it is unnecessary and doesn't add to the story or anything. I found as well that as much as I thought and I felt like it tried to be faithful, I felt like the Barbara getting shot scene wasn't as punchy, and I found the mental torture of Gordon, even when they're doing the why was I say go-kart? The kind of the roller coaster, the Willy Wonka ghost train horror ride. I found that weirdly less impactful in animated. And we said about extra scenes. I didn't like the Gordon Judge scene. I felt like it didn't. I could see that they were trying to make a point with it, but it didn't fit for me how Joker at that point was trying to psychologically torture him. It felt like a kind of a new wrinkle to it that probably would have taken away from the shitty things he was already doing to him. But yeah, I mean, outside of that, I go back to what I said earlier. I think a really brave attempt at it, and I think to a degree it is a love letter. But yeah, at some point it tiptoes into stalker love letter version of it for me.
Yeah. So yeah, both of us on that. Unless you know, Conroy and Hamill are your Batman and Joker, and you need to hear it in their voices.
Yeah.
Give it a miss. So, as we already have told you, go read The Killing Joke. It's amazing.
Yeah. I you know, we'll talk about through the course of this. I'm going to say series. Like series suggests that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. I think you've been along with us enough, though. It's hard enough to get us to fucking shut up. So there probably isn't a beginning, a middle, and an end. But I think we'll talk about loads of stuff as we go forward. We'll talk about stuff that we've experienced and we love. We'll talk about stuff that we've experienced and we don't love. We will talk about new stuff to us as we share with each other series and things like that. However, I will be, and bearing in mind, we've done our top 5. So we've already talked about some stuff that I love, and we will wax lyrical, or certainly I will wax lyrical about the stuff I love, and I hope that the stuff that I love, you do too. This sits in a pantheon outside of that. And I'm not saying it sits on its own in a pantheon outside of it. This sits in a very special place because I think this is, here we go. Here's some hyperbole for whichever art form you do, you know, like you hear about like Citizen Kane in movies, you know, like people bang on about the Mona Lisa in painting. People talk about the songs released by Bewitched in the music industry as comparative points, and this for me kind of sits in that area. This is to a degree some of the pinnacle of comic book. And I keep wanting to say writing, but let's say creation, because this would be a lesser. The writing is amazing. It would be a lesser experience if the art didn't match it and the colouring, etc., etc., etc. But this is kind of right up there in the top ether for me. And yeah, we will touch on some stuff that I think also is in there. And you know, from day to day, your mood and what you're into at the time can impact that. But this ain't ever falling out of that top pantheon, is it? You know, that's always going to be up there. God tier, I guess, is the way to describe it. This is God tier work for me.
So, as always, like, subscribe, ring the bell.
Have a happy Christmas as well.
Comments, because that way you can share the love this fine Christmas.
And again, if you've read The Killing Joke, let us know what you think. If you've watched it and not read it, give us a shout out and let us know what your thoughts and feelings are on it.
So it leads me to say, Seddon, Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas.
It's
the most wonderful time of the year, Mr. Lacey.
That's what they say. As you can tell, there are 2 types of Christmassy people.
There's the excellently dressed ones. Oh, I'll tell you what, I didn't think... If only I'd have figured out I could have done this earlier on, I could... it's a very different look for the elf, isn't it? Sorry for the people who are listening to this and not watching, but, you know, seek this out so you can see what I just did with my head.
Yes. So there, as I said, there are 2 different types of Christmassy people. There's the likes of Seddon, who get into that shit.
Yes.
And then there's the likes of me. Not so much.
He loves it, really.
But we will be back with another special one.
Yes.
Between now and the new year.
And then, sorry, I was going to say, but we'll pick up on that. But I just want to assure people, as long as nothing bad happens and or anything like that. But we're banging in, like past the next special. We're banging into the new year, aren't we? I personally, yes. And this is putting the pressure on you as ain't live, but I record this so I can put this out. I really bloody enjoy doing this. I love doing this, and I want to carry on doing this. And you know, I think I say we've got a list of episode ideas, but I think weirdly enough, we're actually very much. I think certainly for my part, this has rekindled my love affair with comics as well. I am actually reading a lot more again now. So rather than just talking about ones that I have read, it has got me back into it as a habit. So yeah, post the next special. This ain't going nowhere, people. We're sticking around.
Yeah, so the next special is on Hawkeye and not the fucking shitty TV show.
And much like we did here with the Killing Joke, we will talk about the one. Oh God, I should remember. Is it called Taking Aim? Was it the first one? Oh, look at this! Beautiful. You've got it there. Oh, My Life as a Weapon. So it's volume 1 of the Matt Fraction Hawkeye series, which large elements of this are what is going in to make the Hawkeye TV show on Disney. And it was one that I'd read at the time and was a really big fan of, and I'd mentioned it to you, Lacey, and I was waxing a bit lyrical to it. But for me, it's a nice endeavour in revisiting something that you haven't read since it come out and seeing whether you still love it, and for you experiencing it for the first time and having a comparative point of going, there's a TV show that uses part of this. How does it use it? Does it use it well and effectively? So so that will be being released, as I say, between now and the new year. I'll probably, even though it's between now and the new year, give a little bit away. I'll probably be wearing another Christmas jumper or a cardie or something Christmassy, because Christmas isn't just one day. It is from whenever my tree goes up to whenever it comes down. So probably like December the 10th till May, probably.
Whereas I won't.
Yeah.
So yes, and obviously as Seddon mentioned there, in the new year, expect new features in the show, one of which being a hit on what we are reading currently. So we'll have a little, it won't be sort of deep dives into what we're doing reading each week, but a little hit on what we're reading at the time, and then obviously still be having deep dives, still be having lists, because we like lists.
And I know we said it the other week, and obviously we've had the one recently, which was off of the reader's question, the listener's question. But we are quite keen that if anyone's got any topics that they want us to tackle or any sort of questions they've got of us, we'll do an episode on it. You've seen this week. I say we can talk about anything. We can talk. I'm not sure if it always stays on topic, but things like that. We're quite happy to sort of stay in that arena as well.
So yes, so have a good Christmas, and we will see you with some archery.
Pew, pew, yeah, that'll be. Look, bows don't go pew, do they? That's guns.
No, yes.
What noise do bows make? Do they make a noise?
Yeah, woof, as the string.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
clangs.
Yeah, not known for their noises, I guess. I probably shouldn't have gone for a noise. I would love to say I was going to edit that bit out, but I'm not. Staying in.
And he's the sober one.
Yeah. Maybe I need a drink. I said this to someone the other day. They sort of said, "How are you feeling?" I said, "I think it's been too long between drinks. I think I need one."
Goodbye and happy Christmas.
Thanks for watching, and just remember, you can join the Cult of Egg by liking and subscribing to this YouTube channel. We release regular content where we talk about all things geek, all things pop culture, and all things that we're interested in. You can also come along and join the discussion on Facebook groups and Renaissance Cast. And you can join us on our Twitch channel where Stu regularly streams games. And if you'd like to support us, then please follow the link for the Patreon. Thanks very much.